Hey everybody, welcome back. In the last episode, we got the Ferrari factory trigger system fully synchronized with the Haltech R5 ECU, and that is an absolute huge milestone, which means I'm almost ready to put the drivetrain back in the car. And oh, if you're new to the channel, yes, that is a Ferrari 360 engine and trans that are going into a Porsche 914. But before I can reinstall the drivetrain, I got one problem to solve, and that is once the engine's running, I need a way to verify ignition timing with a timing light. And the problem that I've got is I currently do not have a reference model or reference point to be able to do that. So in this episode, I got to engineer a solution to allow me to do that. But just like always here at the Red Barn, we are going to figure this out. Enjoy. So I have to be able to verify the timing with the engine back in the car and running. And that's because we only verified it and got the trigger offset value set based on the cranking RPM, which is like 150 RPM. And apparently what happens is with the engine running at a much higher RPM, let's say it's idling at, pick 1,000 RPM, the signal that the sensors are sending is the amplitude changes and it smooths the signal out, and that can actually cause the value to be different than it was at a cranking RPM. And that's this whole thing about timing wander, right? At low RPM, we got this reading, but at engine RPM, 1,000 checked again at like say 3,000, we got to verify that that timing's not changing. And if it has changed from the cranking RPM, we can play with the offset so that it's correct. Anyway, so I have to be able to get the timing light and verify timing with the engine running. I really don't think I'm going to be able to get a pointer system up in here where I can get to it without cutting another hole in the firewall. And here you can see why I don't want to cut another hole in the firewall. The crank pulley, when the motor's in the car, is approximately here. And so it would require cutting a hole kind of in this area, and I really am, well, I'm not gonna do it. And you can see, like, trying to shoot down through this opening, and, this is a fairly steep angle, and the crank pulley sits a little bit forward, so that's not gonna work. So we are gonna keep looking for a different way to do this. Well, and on top of that, plan ahead, check this out. I completely forgot. There's a water line that runs right along the front of this thing, and then there's another water line that's coming out of here and running down this way. So coming through that inspection cover, guess what? And this isn't pushed all the way in, by the way. You can see this lip's got to go even farther in, so I will not be able to even see the upper part of this pulley. So we must have a different solution. So let's take a look at the other options. But I do have the opportunity to get a timing light up underneath the bottom of the engine, and this portion of the crank pulley is visible. So I made this little paint pen mark, and it actually goes around to this edge. I'll just show you up here, but I didn't do it up here, but it goes around to the edge of the pulley. So there's an off chance that I can make a bolt-on pointer, which is what this bracket is that I started. So I could do a little pointer that came out like this, and I could potentially verify the timing from underneath the car, which means all the wiring's going to be back in the car and all that good stuff, and the ignition switch I would put back in the car, in its position, which means I'm going to need a helper. The good news is all my local buddies are like, oh, when you go to start that thing, I want to be there. So I don't think I'll have any shortage of people that'll be around to volunteer to work the key while I'm under there with the timing light. But then one of you guys, I forget your name, I apologize, this person right here, said, why don't you mark the flywheel? And my immediate reaction was, well, there's no way to see the flywheel. And then I thought, wait a second, this guy might be a genius. And by that I mean, as you may know from previous episodes, or you may not be aware, in this era, Ferrari ran these engines as two separate four-cylinder engines. So there were two of everything. There were two engine ECUs, two crank position sensors, two cam position sensors, two fuel pumps. There were actually four knock sensors. So two completely separate four-cylinder engines. The ECUs played a I'm the master ECU, you follow along and do what I tell you kind of a model. But what that means is, wait a second, and as I was thinking back to like, well, how am I going to get marks on the flywheel and be able to see it? There are two crank position sensors. The Haltech only needs one of them. Whoop. So what I've got here is I've got a little cap that I have on this one. I'm not going to pull it out, but that's the spare crank position sensor hole in the case. And if you were to open that or look through there, you would see the trigger wheel on the flywheel, or the trigger teeth on the flywheel. And just for a point of reference, there's the crank position sensor that I am using hooked up to the crank position sensor of the wiring harness. In any case, I pulled this cover off, and yeah, you can see the trigger teeth. But the odds of getting a light in here and being able to sight it correctly, that just seemed like it was going to be a bit too difficult. But then I remembered I haven't had to do this yet, so that was why I'm like, well, what do you mean I can't get to the flywheel? But again, this dude right here, genius, thank you. There is a cover at the bottom of the transmission case. Here's a picture of the inside of the transmission case where you can see where this opening is. And what happens is that cover comes off and a locking tool goes on there with little grippers that come up and grab the flywheel and prevent it from spinning so that you can get that bolt out and remove the crank pulley to do a belt service. So I'm going to use that opening to devise my pointer system. And what I did was take advantage of the wonder of the internet, and I just went out here and said, let me find a Ferrari 360 flywheel locking tool. And you can see I can spend a couple $100 on one, but I had a suspicion that there would be another way to do this. And if I scroll down here, you can see this is just one of many. This is printables.com. Which is people can upload and have uploaded boatloads of 3D printable files, and many of them, most of them, are free to download. And so I just went in here, and thank you very much, East Memphis. I owe you one. There's a Ferrari 360 crankshaft locking tool that was available for a free download. And you can see this is that opening in the bottom of the transaxle case you saw earlier, and there's the trigger wheel on the flywheel. And you can see I've got a clear shot at simply, taking the paint pen out, marking one of these teeth that's visible in this position. And as you know from earlier, the engine is set at top dead center compression stroke. So now all I've got to do is take this design, update it a little bit, or print it and just make another little pointer that is adjustable so I can point it at the right tooth, whichever one of these I mark with the paint pen. And now I can get under here with the timing light when the engine's running, and I can shoot timing right up against one of these trigger wheel teeth. So this is going to work out great. Now, obviously, I'm not going to print this whole thing because, as you can see, it's got the little gripper teeth that fit up into there. I don't want to do that, obviously. But there you go. So I love the internet, and this is only going to save me, all kinds of time. Because until I get the engine back in the car, I can't even figure out what this bolt pattern is to be able to make this base part. So now let me show you what I did. And a little while later, I have this. And that bolt pattern is the exact right bolt pattern to bolt up into that space on the underside of the transmission case. And I made a little bracket, if you want to call it that, to which I can weld a pointer that I can adjust as needed. Now, what is so wonderful about the internet are things like our friend earlier, the genius who said, why don't you make a mark on the flywheel, as well as what a lot of these makers do. Another important thing to do is to make sure the fuel system's all ready to go. So I end up getting one of these little test units. I like to do this to all the lines. There's just a little Schrader valve, bicycle valve air thingy, and a plug on the other end. And a little compressed air into this, very little, you don't need much. Not like you put 100 pounds in it, but I'm just gonna give it a little boop. And then I got a little bucket of water here and run that thing in there and verify that you don't have any air bubbles. I got an air bubble. And it's interesting, I can't really show this to you, but what happens sometimes is this one's leaking at the back side of this part of the fitting. And what can happen is sometimes debris can get in there and prevent it from sealing all the way up. So I'm going to need to mess with this one and fix it. So what I end up doing is just playing with this fitting a little bit, and I'll get a little bit of compressed air and blow around this. Probably there's just a little bit of debris in there. And we'll test these and make sure they're all done and not leaking, and then they can go back in the car. All right, fuel lines are tested. Had a couple issues with, that's why you test them, where a little bit of debris gets behind something and you flush that all out of there, test it, pressure test it, and everything checked out. So here's everything under the fuel tank to remind you. We've got this will be the supply line coming out of the pump. We're running down into the radium fuel filter, back around the corner and back to the motor, and then here comes the return line and back up out here. So all of these are tested. And then at the back of the car, these two lines that are going to come out of the firewall, the feed through the solid lines through that bulkhead panel and up into the fuel pressure regulator. So those are all tested. So far so good. And now to get the fuel tank in there and wire up that fuel pump that's sitting right there. And we should be all set to supply fuel to this engine. Oh, and then one other thing while I'm back here, I didn't bother filming it because it's not very exciting to watch me work sandpaper and a spray can, but I just squirted some smoke gray paint on the exposed metal that was back here. This was going to start getting surface rust on it. Now, once my motor goes in, I want to be able to start driving the car around as things get proven out. And so this is just a quick and dirty just to get it to not look horrible. And it's the same thing I did in the LS car, which I kind of like. I like the way I look. This is obviously a lot more complete, but this will serve the purpose until the thing comes back apart at some point in the future and gets fully painted. So yeah, engine compartment coming along. And it's not just the engine compartment that's coming along. With helpful input from viewers like you and people who are willing to do a bunch of hard work and then just put their stuff out there on the internet for others to benefit, I was able to solve for my pointer system. And, could I have done this all by myself? I don't know. What fun would that be? So thank you very much for sticking with me and for commenting and helping me navigate through all this fun stuff. But the short version of all this is the drivetrain's ready to go back in the chassis. And with just a little bit of work to get the fuel system finally hooked up and wired, we are ready to try to start this thing. So I know it's been a long time coming, but thank you for hanging with me. We're getting close. And with that, I'm going to call it for this week and say thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and tell all your friends. And everybody take care. We'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye-bye.